Welcome into Fire Mountain Gems and Beads Live. I'm Patti. I'm a jewelry designer here today. Well, I'm a jewelry designer here every day. Honestly, that's live for you. So today we're going to be making a really cool wire wrapped ring. I've seen this similar style around quite a bit, and I thought it would be so fun to show you how to make this. Let me just go ahead and let you get a nice close-up view of that. So here it is. It's sterling silver, this one, with a Crystal Passions 4mm crystal bead in the center. A lot of times you see these without any embellishment in the center, so I thought a little color would be fun. So this is what we're going to make today. It doesn't take a whole lot of tools, though I'm going to introduce you to a couple of new tools that are great for making this. And not a huge skill set. I think that anyone that enjoys wire can learn to do this. So let's go ahead and take a look at the materials in that ring. So the one we're making today is made with 18 gauge dead soft wire in sterling silver. This is a round wire. I always mark my wire what gauge it is and what hardness it is. So that's what that is. And then a bit of 24 gauge dead soft round wire as well. That's going to hold that crystal in the middle. And then some of these great Crystal Passion light cyan round beads. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. But before we do that, make sure and like and share and subscribe, and just share the video. That gives more people this experience. It really spreads it out there, and we really appreciate that. As well, if you miss any of the video, it's being recorded, and so you can watch it at the end. I'll just bump that in again later. Make sure and talk to me too. I would love to interact with you. If you have any questions about the materials or the process, about wire in general, or if you have any comments, if you make something similar, just give me a little shout. I'd be happy to talk to you while we work. If there's some kind of question I can't answer, we have our wonderful social media people on standby that will help us out and try and answer those for you. All right, so let's start by pulling off about 22 inches of the 18 gauge sterling wire. So I'm just going to pull that off the roll. And I'm eyeballing it. You can use a ruler if you need to. I kind of do this a lot, so I don't feel like I really need to do that. I always cut a little, an inch or two extra as well, because with wire, the rule of thumb is cut a little extra, not quite enough, because you don't want to have to redo your whole project. So there we have our wire. Now, there are a couple of little tiny bumps in the wire, and I want it fairly smooth for this project. So I'm just going to take my nylon jaw pliers. They're flat nylon jaw pliers. And I'm going to hold the wire between my thumb and forefinger. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to involve these other three fingers. If I involve these back here, they kind of mangle up the wire. But if I'm only holding it at one point, the wire stays more straight. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that through. And a heavier gauge like the 18 here takes a little more force, and that's okay. You can kind of choke up on the wire where there's a bump, kind of hold it right next to the bump, and just smooth it out in several different directions. There's another little one over here. We'll try and get that. That's nicer. Okay. So now I have my fairly smooth wire. I'm also going to cut a 6-inch length of the 24 gauge wire. So I'm going to set this aside for a second. And we'll get my little roll of 24 gauge wire out. And I'm just going to cut off my little section of that as well. I don't need 6 inches. You'll see I cut a little extra, so I have some kind of working handles. Okay, I'm going to set that aside so it's just ready for us. Hi to Jessica from Grants Pass. Jessica, I know who you are. Jessica used to be our stylist here, and we really miss her, and I'm so glad you're on to new adventures that are fun for you. And she has the cutest husband too, by the way. So nice. I met him recently. And Wendy from Saskatchewan. Oh, how cool. Well, I'm glad you're here, Wendy. Thank you for popping in. Okay, so we've got our wire cut. So first thing I'm going to do is middle the wire. Now, what do I mean by middle the wire? I'm going to grab both of the ends in, between thumb and forefinger, and I'm just going to kind of do this, pull it. I'm not pulling it tight. I just want to find where about the middle of that wire is without making a real bend in it. And then I'm just going to grab that point and flip it around. And that's pretty close to middle, and that's good enough for this project. Then, and I have like a gentle curve here so I know where I need to go back to. Then I'm going to bring in my ring mandrel. The ring mandrel is a really great tool. This one is great for forming rings. If you need to pound a ring and make it a little bigger size or something, and for certain rings, not all of them, of course, this is a great tool. It's marked along the shaft here of the mandrel with all the different ring sizes, so I know right where to form it to get a certain size ring. The difference between making earrings and rings is that earrings fit pretty much everyone, but a ring you really want to a specific size. And so I'll show you how to keep it kind of to that size as we go. Hi to Sandra from Jacksonville, Wisconsin. Is it Wisconsin? WS, yes. Wow, Wisconsin, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us. Okay, so what I'm going to do is decide what size I want my ring. I'm going to make this, I think, a 10. And that's kind of a larger size. And the reason I'm making it a larger size is because it's kind of a fairly large ring. Here's another one that I did in copper with a clear stone in the middle rather than the cyan. Isn't that pretty? Let me show you a couple of other ones I did too. Here's one in gold with a pink. Isn't that pretty? Just gorgeous. And this one's a little smaller. You can make it larger or smaller. It's really up to your taste. The one that we're making here today is a fairly large ring, so I would wear it on maybe a middle finger. Now, your finger might be a different size. You might want an 8 or a 6, all up to you. But I think today I'll make it a 10. Okay, so what I'm going to do is grab the middle of my wire, and I'm going to put it on my ring mandrel, around my ring mandrel, right at the 10, and then I'm going to scooch it up a size. The reason that I'm doing that is because wire has kind of a bounce back effect. It springs back. And so if I did it at a 10, when I remove it from the mandrel, I'm going to lose some of the tightness of my coils, and it will be maybe an 11. So I like to wrap at a size to a size and a half smaller. I'm pretty good at it, so I do about a size smaller. And we do lots of checks to make sure we're keeping the right size. So right on top of the 9, I'm going to put the middle. And then I'm going to just kind of squish the wire right around the mandrel and wrap it real nice and tight one time so the sides kind of overlap. And I kind of want to keep that 9 in sight so I can see where I'm at. All right. And so you can see it's already gotten loose. It's way down here. So I'm going to set the steel mandrel down. And the nice thing about working with this heavy steel mandrel rather than maybe a light aluminum one is there's some weight to it, so it helps me. I really enjoy that. So I'm going to find my 9 again, and I'm going to tighten it. And there we are. Once I've got it tightened at the 9, I'm going to kind of lift it back up and pinch the sides to try and keep that spring. I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and just at one point, right near the middle, I'm going to bend one side all the way up so it's going in kind of a cross direction here. Okay, now this is where it gets a little tricky. Hi, Tina from Michigan. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us today. And Melissa is asking, can you resize a wire-wrapped ring? You know what? You can't resize it once you make it a certain size, it's that size. However, I have a cool little trick on how to snug it up if you need to snug it up, and I'll show you when we're finished making the ring. It's really cool. I really will enjoy showing you that. Okay, so I'm going to pinch the ring and pull it off the mandrel for now. I'll bring that mandrel back in a minute. So I really want to hold those wraps tight if I can. And now it looks like I've held them very tight, but if I put it back on the mandrel at this point, and if we look at those numbers, what was a 9 is now a 10. So there's this little magic thing that happens. But I did want it at a 10, and so I'm going to go ahead and take my chain nose pliers right where this one is angled. I'm going to angle the opposite one the opposite way here. And you're just really trying to hold it to keep that size. Okay. Now I'm going to pull them so they're in the other direction. And it gets a little messy. That's okay. It doesn't need to look neat at this point. So I'm going to put it back on the mandrel. And because now I still have the opportunity to change that, I'm going to squish them back into shape and hope that it lands right at the 10 when I do that. Let's see what's happening. A little bit over the 10, so I'm going to make a little adjustment. It's a little too small. Just a tiny adjustment and squish it down more, and I'm right at the 10. That's where I want to be. And I want to make sure my sides are going off in both kind of cross directions from the mandrel. So you have these kind of 4 90-degree angles in here. All right, perfect. So we've got our start on our ring really nicely. I can pull it off the mandrel. It's not going to spring away anymore. It's going to stay at that size. And the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and wrap on the, my wire flew across the table. I'm going to wrap on the little light cyan bead that's going to go in the middle, and then we'll end up forming the rose around that bead. Hi to Peggy from Kansas and Terry from Wisconsin. Also Mary from France. Oh my gosh, we have people from all over the place today. Wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead and start wrapping on the little bead. And so what we're going to do is between the tails, and if you could get in real close, I'll go ahead and show you where we're going to wrap that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put the wire through. There's kind of a center wire that goes kind of between both of these tails. And we're going to put this small 24 gauge wire around that center wire. And I'm going to pull it back, and I'm going to kind of clamp it with my finger. And that tail is going to come off anyway, so it doesn't need to be neat. And now that I have a good hold on this 24 gauge wire around that center wire, I'm going to make a couple of wraps, probably 3. So there's 1. And you really don't want to involve any other wires in this, just the center one. And it's really the center ring that is going through here. There's 1, and I'm pulling it nice and tight. You can grab your chain nose pliers and pull it a little tighter if you need to, if you're not getting purchased with your fingers. Okay, putting it through again. Choo, choo, choo. Here we go. There's half a wrap. And I'll just make sure these wraps are nice and tight by pulling on that. And 1 more. 3 wraps is a really nice number to make sure something is secure when you're embellishing on something to another wire. 3 to 4. Okay, nice and tight. Now I'm just going to scooch my wraps together with the tip of my chain nose pliers so they make a nice neat little coil there. And then I'm going to just snip off the tail. So I'm going to grab the tail and use my flush cutters to snip it off real close to the ring. And then whenever you snip off a tail, just take your chain nose pliers or your flat nose pliers and just go around in a little circle and make sure your tail is tucked in. So we have it wrapped onto one side of the ring. The next thing I'm going to do is make a space, kind of a little huggy space for my bead to go down the wire and kind of sit in a valley there. So I'm going to use my chain nose pliers and a couple of millimeters. It's a 4 millimeter bead, so half of that is 2. So 2 millimeters above where that bead is going to sit at the top of the ring, I'm going to make a 90-degree bend. And then we'll go ahead and thread the bead onto that 24 gauge wire. Let's see, you got to get the light in there. There we go. And let it fall right against the bend that you made. And I'm just going to pull the wire down so the bead is nice and snug right on the top. And then I'm going to wrap it around that center wire on the other side of the middle of the ring. Make sure I got that. Okay. So we'll go through and we won't involve any of the other wires, just that center one. And I'm wrapping really tight. I'm really pulling on that. And again, you can use your chain nose. One wrap, let's do another one. And it's got a little out of shape here, but that's okay. We're going to fix it momentarily. Whenever you're doing a wire project like this, your wire goes all over the place and you end up having to fix it. But we don't mind because it's going to be beautiful in the end. Let's see. All right, I feel like that's good. I'm going to go ahead and snip off that tail. I had extra wire there, but I had enough to pull with, and that was important. And I'll just scooch together my little coil here and tuck in the tail. Now you can see we need to fix that. So once again, we bring in the ring mandrel. We do this several times during this project, and it's really a handy tool. And I want to scooch it till it's right back on that 10, the size that I want it to be. And then you can even kind of twist it a little bit, round it out, like so. And when you take it back off the mandrel, it's all nice again. So we're ready to go. Okay, here comes the magic part. Before I start this part, make sure and like, share, and subscribe so other people see the video, become part of the Fire Mountain family here. We'd love to have you around. And remember that the video is being recorded, so if you missed a little bit of this, it's no big deal. Wait till the end, and we're gonna make it permanent so you can go back and reference it anytime you like here on Facebook. Okay, so now we're gonna make the rows. The tails make the rows. So I'm gonna make sure that my wire is fairly straight. It's pretty good, I'm pretty happy with that. If it were a little choppy, if it got a little bendy, we could just fix it with nylon jaws. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, and I'm really just pushing with my finger or pulling like this. I'm not really creating any bends because we want really nice flowy curves in the rows. So I'm gonna push this around that light cyan bead there. And just a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch maybe. Now I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna grab the other tail, and I'm gonna push that around, and it's gonna go underneath that first tail. Just like so. So we have the start of our rows now. Hi to Rebecca from Oregon. Oh, so nice that you're here with us. And hi to Patsy from the UK. Wonderful. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Lovely. I wonder what it's like over there right now. Is it colder? It's awfully hot in Oregon. Okay. I have friends in Australia the other day that posted on Facebook, and they were talking about how cold it is there. And I was like, wow, it's so opposite. Okay, so now I'm going to take this last tail and push it around and under the tail that I just pushed. And we're always doing it just about 1/4 of an inch, and we just keep doing that. So you just keep going round and round, pulling a little bit or pushing a little bit, and you always just go under the last tail that you push. And you might need to work it around with your fingers just a little bit to make sure it stays round and nice and tight there. See how that's forming? Isn't that pretty? And then we'll just keep going. And you can stop at any point that you want. If you have a rose that's large enough for you, stop. And I will show you how to finish it in just a moment after we make it just a little bigger on this one. All right, so I'm just going around my circle. I'm really liking how this is coming out. So pretty. Once you get on the kind of tail end of doing this, you push it a little bit further because your revolutions are getting larger. Okay, I'm feeling really good about this. I think I'm going to go just a little bit more, and then we're going to wrap this up. Okay, really good. So just a little bit more. I think I'm going to stop right about there. I'm really liking that rose. So pretty. Okay. So to finish this is so simple. So what I'm going to do is take this last tail that is over the top here, and I'm going to cut it at about 2 inches or so, just like that. And then the other tail, I'm going to kind of bend that around the bottom and bring it to the other side. So you want the tails right where the ring is coming off of the rose. And I'm going to cut that to just a couple of inches as well. And so this is the end of your rose ring. Hi to Becky. Nice to have you here. All right. Okay, so let's wrap it up. So I'm just going to kind of pinch the rose between my thumb and forefinger, just like this. And I'm going to wrap one side by hand so you see how that happens. And the other side, I'm going to show you a really cool tool called a ring vise. I lost it. I wanted to say ring mandrel again. I've said it so many times, but a ring vise. So we're going to do one this way. And I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers, and I'm going to pinch the rose between my thumb and forefinger. And right up next to the rose, I'm bringing this around and wrapping a couple of times. And you want to always end a wrap on a ring on an upswing. And what I mean by upswing is you want to have it through the ring and coming back up, and you cut it off coming back up. And the reason being is that you don't want anything pokey touching your skin. And so this way it stays away from your skin. That's really important. We're also going to take the chain nose pliers and just go in a little circle and make sure that that tail is nicely tucked in. And then I'll also squeeze my wraps together a little bit. They're already pretty good, but all right. So the other side, now this is the finishing touch for your ring. Before I do that, I think I'm going to squish it on the ring mandrel one more time and bring it down. There we are. We've got a nice round on our ring. I'm going to show you the ring vise. This is a really cool tool when you're working with a ring. It has a little wedge here that you take out, and you squeeze it open and you put your ring in there. And I'm only going to put it halfway because I need some space to wrap near the side of my rose here. And then you just kind of put the wedge back in there, pound it down a little bit. Sorry, that was loud. And it holds your ring for you. So you have all of this area to hold rather than just a little bit of ring. And so now I can take this, I can feed my tail through and make my wraps here. And you have to make sure your ring vise is nice and tight, really pound that block in the bottom. And let me grab my tail out here a little bit. I need to get in closer. So I'm just making my wraps here, and on the upswing, making sure they're nice and tight, I am going to cut off that tail. And then while it's in the vise, I'm going to go around a little bit and just snug in my tail, pull my wraps in, and then take it right out of the vise. And I could just kind of push it around a little bit, make sure that it looks how I want. And there you have your beautiful wire-wrapped rose ring. Isn't that pretty? So simple, just a few materials, 3 different things, and there we go. And I promised I was going to show you in the beginning or in the middle of the video how you could snug this up if it was a little too big. Or, you know, you can use this on any ring that's a little bit too big. It's not just for wire wrap rings. So we have this little thing that we sell called a ring adjuster, and it's a funny little Z-shaped thing like this. It's just really a piece of wire that's kind of curved and then factory tweaked, and it comes in different sizes for different rings. And maybe our social media people can put up the link, because once I show you what this does, you're probably really going to like it. So here's one that's actually on a ring already. And so you can see this is the ring adjuster on the ring. So it takes up a little bit of space between the bottom of the ring and your finger. The reason this is fantastic, and we just found out the other day, people that have larger knuckles here and a smaller finger here have a hard time wearing rings, because you have to have it large enough to get over your knuckle, but then small enough to stay snug on the part of your finger where the ring sits. Well, this adjuster, it takes up some of the bottom here, but it leaves the whole width. And so the width of your knuckle is usually wider this way and not so much this way. So it fits in here really well. So we found out the other day that if you use this ring adjuster, it's great for people with larger knuckles. It's also great if you have a ring that, say you've lost weight and it doesn't fit anymore, or it belonged to someone else and now it's been passed down to you. It's a great way to wear a ring that is maybe just a little bit too big. So great thing to have. Hi to Carmencita from Puerto Rico. What a beautiful name. I'm so glad you're here with us today. Well, that is our wire-wrapped ring. I hope that you've enjoyed this. This is actually my last Facebook Live. I am really going to miss you. We are discontinuing that, but it's not the last Facebook Live altogether. Rose is going to be here next month. It'll be on September 15th, and she's going to be doing a seed-beaded pen sleeve that she's going to be making in her retirement. She's retiring soon, and so she will be hosting our last live. So make sure and come back and say goodbye to Rose. We are still going to be around. We are still going to be putting out lots of videos, so make sure and come and see us. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Oh, and if you want to make this ring just like I made it, the materials list in the comments below, go ahead and put hashtag PF, that's Paul Frank 32, and we'll put up the materials list for you. Take care and have a wonderful day. I will see you around our videos.